Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
As we reported earlier, Theresa May's main business today has been a trip to Poland, where she refused to criticise the Polish authorities over what critics call its attacks on judicial independence, insisting it was a matter for them. The European Union has begun unprecedented proceedings which could end with the suspension of Poland's voting rights, saying its attempt to fill the courts with judicial appointees threatens the entire structure of the justice system. Well, we're joined now from Warsaw by the former Polish Foreign Minister, Radosław Sikorski. Is this terrible meddling by the European Union, or are they doing the right thing?
Well, Europe is a confederation, and member states agree rules, but then, of course, retain ultimate sovereignty. So it's up to their sense of propriety that the rules are obeyed or broken, as we saw in the case of the Eurozone or the Schengen group. So it's really a process of peer review, and important institutions such as the Council of Europe, Venice Commission have studied this very carefully over the last 2 years, engaged in dialogue, and have identified 13 different moves to abolish judicial review of legislation in Poland and to politicize the judiciary. And they have pronounced, in my view, indisputably, that this is a breach of the Lisbon Treaty, which Poland voluntarily signed and ratified in the Polish Parliament. So I just hope that it's a signal that the ruling party in Poland takes very seriously.
But it doesn't seem to be at the moment, does it? It's very defiant. And this is being portrayed, much as we've heard sometimes in this country, as, you know, a breach of sovereignty and meddling in Poland's affairs. So where is this heading? Are we going to see Poland suspended from voting in European Union
decisions? Sovereignty is not
decisions?
the right to oppress your people. Sovereignty is not the right to breach your own constitution. And this talk of sovereignty, we know where it's led Britain towards leaving the European Union, which is certainly not what the great majority of Polish people want. 80% are in favour of remaining in the EU. The ruling party won with 38% of the vote. They have the right to rule, but not to change the constitution, and they're trying to do that by ordinary legislation. The EU, I think, is right to point out that that is not compatible in the long run with membership. But yes, the Tory party and the ruling party in Poland are in the same Europhobic group in the European Parliament. Both countries are in diplomatic isolation, and that's why they're being helpful to each other.
When we look at what's happening in Poland, Hungary, and now Austria, how concerned do you think we should be about the rise of extremist elements in European politics?
Well, populism is a brown tsunami sweeping the entire world. You might add the Trump phenomenon in the United States and elements of Brexit as well. It's I think, many things: identity politics, a delayed result of the financial crisis, all kinds of things, and I think the established politicians have to explain better how Europe works and what the benefits of democracy and free markets are.
But is this then a total failure of what the European Union was supposed to be about? I mean, wasn't one of the reasons the European Union exists to stop Europe
the European
down this road?
Union is trying to use its procedures to defend democracy. That's why we like the European Union, because it's also an anchor of values. For Poland, it's a strategic framework. It's a way to overcome our tragic history, and it's also an ally in overcoming some of the infrastructure that we need to modernize. But Europhobes in your country and in ours have lied about the European Union for decades, which is why some people have been misled.
Well, I mean, you know, there are people who say, well, this is precisely the reason why it's a good time to be getting out of Europe. when you look at what's going on there and the way politics is heading in some of those states, such as Poland, Hungary and Austria?
Well, in your country, the Daily Mail called judges that demanded that Parliament be involved in the Brexit decision enemies of the people. Your institutions are stronger than ours. Imagine if that was government policy, and I think you have a picture of what's going on.
So do you think Theresa May should have raised it today?
I think it's a sign of Britain's diminished stature in European politics, because 5 or 10 years ago, she wouldn't have hesitated.
But I suppose she's trapped, isn't she, by the European arguments in this country, in that if she'd have meddled in Poland, there would have been plenty of people pointing out the irony.
No, she's trapped by the fact that she needs the goodwill of the majority of the European Council, of European member states, and it's those states that have just censured Poland. So it's all very well to feel sympathy for fellow Europhobes, but Britain needs to negotiate a good deal for itself, and for that you need the majority.
It's a while since we talked about that, actually. Things have moved on rather better than you predicted, haven't they?
Sorry, in what sense?
In terms of getting a deal.
Well, you're going to get a Canada-style free trade agreement. That's a result of British decisions to leave the customs union, to leave the single market, and to have an independent trade policy. I'm not sure it's good for Britain, because Britain has a huge deficit in the trade in goods, but the goods will continue to flow. Britain needs to sell its services. And to sell services, you need to be in the single market, but you won't be in the single market. So I think you will have some difficulties.
Branislaw Sikorski, thank you very much.